Where's my brother at? Oh man, boy, you special.
Oh, listen, 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 listen,
Hey, listen,
listen.
hey, listen, ladies and gentlemen. He was on fire last week, so he won't make an entrance this week. I see. Hey,
Nah,
I ain't
man,
mad at
come
you though.
on.
I ain't mad at you.
Listen, man. We are bringing in so many special guests that are family in some way or another. It's only right that we raise our energy level,
That's a
to
fact.
bring them in. So
Because this
you know
next guest, if we don't raise our energy level, this next guest gonna make us look bad. You know what I'm saying?
that's a fact. That is a fact.
And I
That is
told
a
him, I told him already, Rob, it's
hmm
gonna be hard to behave with him in the building. So I'm telling you, I'm warning you, listen, you gotta behave, man. Hey,
Who?
ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna be in here with two football players, and y'all know how it is, man, with football players, man. They educated, they confident, you know what I'm saying? They bigger than you. Oh, I gotta deal
Listen,
with all this. I gotta deal with all this madness.
how Jay said, I'm not a like I'm a hustler. I listen. I'm a basketball player at heart. Like I just
Okay,
so
all
happen.
right, all
I
right.
just so happen to be better than a lot of people who are playing football.
I can roll with that. I can, I can roll with that. Yo, but before we bring our guest on, so glad to have author, leadership coach, and entrepreneur and consultant, DEI consultant Pierre Campbell with us tonight, man. But I wanted to recap last week, Rob. We
Yes,
said it
sir.
was a hot topic, but didn't nobody say it was going to blow up? You know what I'm saying? In 7 days. And last week, if you missed it last week, our hot topic, we interrupted our leadership series to deal with the us versus them scenario that's going down in the workplace right now. The name of the show last week was "To Be or Not to Be Vaxxed," and we weren't intending to get into any politics around whether you should or should not be vaccinated. But me and Rob wanted to highlight the the actual nature of us versus them surrounding people's personal decisions in politics that have encroached into the workplace
Mhm.
heavy. And then
Yeah.
once we had our show, it was like the next day, Rob. I
Mhm.
thought it was Draymond Green's interview at the Golden State Warriors media day, but I thought I was listening to you. He said so.
Hey,
Somebody must have asked him a question, and he was like about Andrew Wiggins. And he was like, "That's like you asking me to question my teammate if his wife uh, had a baby. Him and his wife had a baby, and he had to leave the team to see to that
mhm.
situation." He said that's personal, and he said that I don't even have a place to even fix my mouth to question and ask that man. He said, but the question is, why y'all pushing so hard? And see, if if individuals don't take that position similar to Draymond Green, it's gonna be us versus them. What you think?
Hey, listen, the craziest thing about it, there is a difference between the NBA and the NFL,
Yes,
right? And the NFL and football in general has this mindset of, it is definitely a us type of thing. And sometimes us, you sacrifice a lot for yourself. And you'll have guys who miss their babies being born. Like they miss a lot of stuff for the game. And I get it. Now the NBA, it's like, listen, it's us until you encroach on me. Right?
that's a good way of putting it.
Uh, we are all on the same page until you tell me I can no longer be an individual. And I am all on board with that because ultimately that allows you to be able to express yourself from a genuine and personal place without bias from your job.
Facts.
And even though you might be making millions of dollars, the idea that that counts more because you're making a whole lot more money than other people, I just think is crazy, right?
Yeah, and the media be tripping. They like fanning the flames, throwing gasoline on the fire. Um, because I noticed that there's a lot of people being quiet, right?
Mhm.
Number one is the one thing I see that is a lot of people of color, right?
Yeah.
Athletes that have been put in compromising positions to say their personal um, choice, to
Mhm.
speak their personal choice and speak their politics. Well, it wasn't too long ago, the same media and the same professional league um, said shut up, was telling LeBron James to shut up and dribble. And if anybody's out there wondering why we talking sports, right? We use sports as a metaphor because it's
Mhm.
hyper intensive with real life scenarios. So we're,
Mhm.
we're we're all student athletes here on this platform, Rob and I, and so we use sports as a metaphor as a parallel. Um, so I don't see a lot of other
Mhm.
athletes other than in particular Black or African American athletes being put
Mhm.
out there to talk and share, right?
Mhm.
The African American community is only 14, 13% of the American population, but our athletes are number one, the most popular, but are the
Yeah.
only ones that are being asked to speak up and represent
Mhm.
the other 80, 75, 85% of the people out there, which is interesting
Yeah.
to me. Um, but yet, a year ago, 2 years ago, they told LeBron James shut up and dribble. So that whole thing's interesting to me. But I think one of the points I wanted to make, Rob, and we're gonna bring our guest on in a minute.
Mhm.
Um, I don't hear nothing I don't hear the NBA Players Association stomping loud. I don't hear none of the commissioners from any of the leagues speaking up. Like this is an issue of leadership and management, right? And this
Mhm.
issue is definitely something that requires the diversity, equity, and inclusion people to speak up as well. But
Yeah.
everybody's quiet. Everybody's
Mhm.
quiet.
Well, when we think about it, there's always a group of people who are meant to be the sacrificial lambs, right? And when you're at the top, a lot of times you're going to be the last group of people to do so. But that's like you said, when a leadership component comes in and being able to provide that cover for folks who look to you for guidance in your organization is key, right? And society is using athletes for that cover compared to everybody really having a true and genuine dialogue about expectations, about everyone's expectations, right? Us, them, everyone, figuring out exactly why people feel how they feel compared to jumping to conclusions or believing that someone should do what you feel as if is truly most beneficial for them, right? I want to see when all of this is done, I want to see people on TV yelling and screaming about McDonald's and Burger King and Taco Bell and
Right.
in 79-ounce sodas. You know what I mean? I
I
want to
know.
see somebody get up there and be screaming about the food that we eat and about the way that we approach things as a society. Because ultimately, we're doing it now because folks are scared or because they feel like it's beneficial or because their life has been turned upside down. But I swear, I tell you, the folks who are on TV who are yelling, regardless of what side you on, if I see you walk down the street eating more than one Snicker, I'm going to punch you upside the back of your head.
Right.
You
Well,
know what I
don't
mean?
take well, don't take it from us, folks. As customary with the Level Up Past Corporate Trauma podcast, we like to bring on subject matter experts to speak to the subject matter. And tonight's subject is leadership, management, diversity, equity, inclusion, and it's a big and there, the great resignation, which is the movement of a lot of people leaving their employment and leaving it on the table. Some giving 2 weeks, some not, right? And so tonight, I'm so excited to help us carry this conversation is my brother in them, author, leadership coach. Like
Mm-hmm.
Pierre says, if you come to me and you wake me up 3 o'clock in the morning and you say, "What are you?" He said, "I'm a leadership coach." He's an entrepreneur. He's an author. I'm gonna say author. And Pierre, make sure we give you an opportunity to plug Simple Intelligence before
Yes.
we get
Let's
off.
go.
Um, yeah, and Mr. Optimistic. You know what
Yes.
I'm saying? Let's
Mhm.
go. Let's get optimistic. It
Amen.
brings me so much pleasure to truly bring on somebody who cares about what they say, who cares about the work that they do and the impact that they have. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you in the corporate trauma community and those of you joining the first time, I encourage you, hit record, hit record. Mr. Pep, you know what I'm saying?
And the crowd
PC,
goes, wow.
the one who put PC in the word professional coach,
Let's go.
Mr. Pierre Campbell. Let's go. What's up,
Let's
Pierre?
go. Let's go. Let's go. Man, let me tell y'all something. I'm so happy that y'all are doing this. Thank you so much for having me on. Y'all are my brothers. Y'all are my colleagues. Y'all are my partners. Y'all are my associates. And to me, that's what team is all about. And I appreciate y'all for having me on as a leadership expert. There are a lot of leadership experts in your network, but I appreciate the fact that you've chosen me as one of your leadership experts, and I'm just excited about sharing with everybody. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and I'm so glad we didn't pull the trigger and get you on the show too early because
Yeah.
Pierre was on a very short list of invited guests. and as always, encouraged this conversation and wanting to be a part of it as well. But your presence here goes without saying. You know, we wouldn't have thought of doing this without you in mind at
Yes,
some
indeed.
point. But you know, tell people a little bit about yourself, what you got going on, and then we're gonna dig right into leadership management, DEI, and the Great Resignation.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. What I love to do is I love to help people to articulate their values so that they can have higher earning potential. That's something that's near and dear to me. And the reason why is because I think that every single human being should know how to articulate their value aside from a job description that's created to attract you.
Right.
So that's from my personal thing that I have going for my company. What we love to do, as far as what the company loves to do, is help people to understand human relational skills. So when you talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, that's all human relational skills. Every single human being on earth needs to understand human relational skills. Now we've put the DEI, unconscious bias, microaggressions, allyship, corporate trauma. We put all these things under DEI.
Right.
Guess what? They're all human relational skills.
That's fact.
So that's what we do, and when it comes to leadership, that's my thing.
Yep.
That just like you said, you shake me 4 a.m. in the morning, I need your help. Leadership is my thing.
Yep.
You can, I don't know what else to say, man. That's my thing, man. I just love it. It gets me hyped. It's the only thing that gets me close to like playing a game, y'all.
Say that, man. Say
Remember,
that.
you remember playing a game
Yes.
when it was almost game time and it was like,
Yep.
boom, 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 and you could hear the music in you. Rob, you got your headphones on, so that's making me think about game time, But the only thing that gets me in that mindset is helping people to understand leadership and management the way I do, So
that's a fact, man. I can bear witness to that.
And I would also say, when you think about it, as as folks who were athletes under let's say colleges and universities, we're still athletes at heart, right?
Yeah.
Still can get out there, still can shake and bake, still can do a number of different things. But now we're athletes in a different realm, right? Play a different sport now in a different league. And for Pierre, he's in the league of leadership.
That's right.
Bringing things together in that human relations industry atmosphere. So being able just to hear it, and I really do hope folks understand two things. Pierre is awesome, regardless if you've never met him or this is your first time. Like, whatever the case may be, this dude is awesome, right? And then second, get your popcorn ready, right?
Yeah.
As well as your notebook, because there are some things that he's going to be able to drop. He's going to say that you're going to be able to go back to your team and say, hey, I heard it from the coach, the guru, Pierre Camp, right?
Right.
I heard it from him. Let me make sure that you understand how we're going to do this from now on. And that's something I've always gotten from you, as far as being able to articulate that message and doing it consistently. And being able to do something consistently is the phrase that I have, is being like water, right? If water is nothing else, it is consistent. Even when it's still, it's moving, right? If you can't see it moving, it's still moving. So being able to be as consistent as you can with the parameters that you've been given. Right. So I'm looking forward to this one, and I know you're going to drop some gems and some jewels. And
he already did, man. He said,
folks,
look, he already did. He said human relational skills. Well, as it relates to human relational skills, Pierre, in the workplace, there's human relational politics, right? And corporate trauma is what we like to talk about, but we don't stay there. We level up. And one of the things that we have talked about within our leadership series is leadership itself. But one of the things I'm excited to talk to you about is, in your opinion, what is the difference between leadership and management? Because I'm always surprised that there's always a critical mass of people that may not necessarily in my realm of business, they're not ready to really answer or don't know how to answer that question. But we got the expert here, Pierre. What's the difference between leadership and management?
You know, when I think about leadership and management, the first thing that comes to mind is, you know, that cartoon of stick figures where they have one person saying, let's go.
Yep.
And they're saying that's the leader. And then the other person saying, go. And then they said that's the manager or boss. I see that all throughout social media. And when I think about leadership, the way I define leadership, once again, I always try to share this with people. This is Pierre Campbell definition. You're not going to Google it. I was going to say pull out an encyclopedia, but I know y'all don't got it.
You don't have encyclopedias no more.
I have one thanks to my parents. You know, I took them from them. But leadership is about leading in your area of gifting. And so therefore, I believe, this is what I believe that every single human being is born to be a leader. Now, we're not necessarily taught that because, you know, for whatever reason, so from a systemic perspective, people want you to go through this system and to be a follower all the time or whatever it is. For whatever reason, people aren't necessarily taught about true leadership. And my personal belief is that every single human being is born to be a leader. And leadership is about leading in your area of gifting. So when you say that, you think to yourself, okay, Pierre, so what do you mean then? Okay, well, what is your area of gifting? So every individual should pay attention to what their gifting is. What is your gifting? What drives you? Hold on just a second.
No problem.
What drives you? You know, what moves you into action? And then management now is something different. And I would say you got to be a manager. You got to be a leader in order to be a manager. I'm an in fact type of person. Yeah, I'm optimistic, but I got a lot of realistic side of me. And at the end of the day, you have to be a leader if you really want people to follow you, or you want to inspire people to move. My definition of management is you're responsible for other people's performance. And therefore, if you're responsible for other people's performance, you must understand how to empower, how to educate, how to inspire the people that report to you. And if you don't know how to do that, they're only going to do but the bare minimum.
The bare minimum. Mm-hmm. Wow. Leadership is innate in everybody. I think that's what I heard you just say. And leadership, by your definition, is leading in your area of gifting.
Yes.
So that could be anything. There's a lane for you, right? Now, what is management then? If that's leadership, what's management?
Yeah. Once again, management is all about being responsible for other people's performance.
Excellent.
So are you responsible? Are you in a position of authority where you have a title and you're responsible for other people's performance? They're directly reporting to you. Their performance dictates your performance. So when they perform, that's a reflection of your leadership. So that's the part that a lot of managers, they mix up on, because they feel like you're supposed to do exactly what I tell you to do and do your job. You made the reference earlier about from a sports perspective, and you said, I think it was Rob, when you said shut up and dribble, or maybe it was you, Jamal. Yeah, shut up and dribble. Well, that's not necessarily leadership. Mm-hmm. If a leader that is responsible or for these people's performances, as far as the athletes are concerned, if that leader is saying that, coming straight out and saying that to their direct reports, which is the athletes that are playing, shut up and dribble, that's not going to drive them to maximize their human potential. So the intent is very important when it comes to leadership and management. And if you don't have the proper intent, listen, here's the thing. People aren't stupid. And people, we got to stop with this whole thought process of everybody needs to do this, you need to do that. No, there's a million jobs in the world. You take the job you take the job that you want, and at some point you're not going to be there forever. And see the smart managers, the managers that excel, the managers that are great leaders, they understand that, and they're okay with that. So they empower their people, they educate their people, they inspire their people to be great at what they do, because they understand you have to have some type of plan to move on.
That's right.
Because they aren't at the same place they started at 5 years ago.
Right. Right. And we're in the era where what's coming back to bite us, Rob, is promoting people, right? To justify giving them, we give them more responsibility, give them a bigger title to justify them getting more money, when they should just be compensated for being really good at what they do. But putting them in leadership positions may not necessarily be the best thing for that particular individual, just because they're an outlier in whatever their performance is.
The phrase nowadays, especially in the world of verses, when it comes down to music, is giving people their flowers, right? But when we're talking about leadership, a lot of times, because someone was able to perform in a particular position, companies choose to give you your flowers in the form of a promotion to lead others. And they may not have been preparing you for that. And then in not preparing you for it, you fall flat because you're not able to adjust. And a piece that I really like and that Pierre shared is being intentional. How intentional are you about the things that you do? And Pierre has this great phrase, and I'm going to see how I can share it without butchering it. Right? You are in charge of your own response, right? You are in control of your own response, regardless of what anybody else does. The piece that you control is you and what you do. And it's so often as leaders, right, we're out here trying to influence things. But if you're not intentional about the actions that you take, and intentional means I understand what I want on the back end, right? If I go behind a donkey and I smack the donkey either gonna kick me or run, right? I better be prepared for both. But ultimately, I would listen. And if somebody else behind the donkey, he might kick the person. But wherever I am, I want to make sure that what I do, I get the result that I'm looking for. And for me, that intentionality is key in understanding that what I put in, I should also have an idea of what I'm going to get out.
Excellent. That's a beautiful, beautiful analogy.
And Jamal, Rob, when you said that, the first thing comes to mind is I always say that results are a byproduct of people's performance.
Right.
That's one I wasn't going to get.
Hey, Pierre, he gave up on that.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't getting that one. I wasn't getting that.
I'm not doing that.
Too many syllables. Too many syllables.
But what you just broke down clarifies the understanding from a management perspective. If you understand that and you embrace that thought process, it's a mindset. Once you get the title, now you're responsible for other people's performance, not your performance. Your performance is based upon, well, you are responsible for your performance, but your performance is key in driving and supporting and giving the people that directly report to you what they need so that they can perform.
Exactly.
And when you say that, when you said what you said earlier, when it comes to management, it's all about making sure that, okay, the results that I'm looking for from a leadership perspective, because we like to use the words of leadership and management like they're synonymous, but they're not. And we have to make sure that we actually clarify what they are so that people feel comfortable in their position and people are held accountable for what they're supposed to do from a management perspective, which is support, which is supposed to be developing.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Did you get? You should have had one for him too. Exactly.
I'm gonna have one for him by the time
But so yes, Rob, I'm in alignment with you, and I just wanted to make sure I dropped that. Results are a byproduct of people's performance, and if you don't understand that, what ends up happening is you fall into these leadership traps. there's a million leadership traps. One of the ones that are common, I wrote an article about it on my LinkedIn profile. If you go on my LinkedIn profile, everybody, there's plenty of articles there on leadership and management. And one of them I talk about, be careful falling into the leadership trap. And what is the leadership trap? We've all said it. And if you are in management or you're in a leadership role or entrepreneur, whatever you're thinking, it's lonely at the top is the leadership trap. And that's something that someone actually said that was in their ego.
That's right.
When they thought about that, because it's not, it may feel lonely when I coach executive. I always share with them, I understand what you mean, but let's put it in proper perspective so it doesn't engulf you and take charge of your performance. Because if you embrace that feeling of it's lonely at the top, and then you start acting like it's lonely at the top, you disengage from your team, and then you don't get the results that you're looking for.
Right.
Exactly.
And people always are looking to either give you what you want, please you, or they just alienate themselves because they're not for that life, right? And so, man, you make it sound so simple.
He does.
You make it sound very simple, but on the ground where the rubber meets the road, it's clearly not that simple. Leadership and management gets conflated, right? We see it every day. But in your opinion, Pierre, the not knowing the difference between leadership and management, how does that impact a organization's diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, right?
Yeah. Oh, so that's a powerful question, and we're dealing with that right now with all of the clients that we have that we support. And not knowing is not embracing the thought of diversity, equity, and inclusion from a thought leadership perspective or a diversity of thought perspective. What does that mean? What I mean is, if I come from a different background, I'm a different race. If I have a different belief, I have different values, and I come into your organization and I fill out a job description. Now I'm here in your organization and you don't know who I am. You don't know my greatness. You don't know what I bring to the table, and you don't embrace that, and you don't understand how to tap into that. You're really not maximizing the human potential of that human resource that you've paid whatever salary that you paid that person in. So once you understand that diversity, equity, inclusion it's a human relational issue. It's very important for all people, not just white people. Black people need to understand it.
Absolutely.
Hispanic people need to understand it. Latino people, Asian people need to understand it. All people need to understand it, because when you understand it, you start to look at people and realize, and this is simple intelligence, that your difference brings value to the organization. Your difference. And so now you're looking at these people that are your direct reports. And if I'm managing people, I'm looking at them and I'm like, man, that person's different from me. That person has different experiences. They come with transferable skills from one job. They bring it to another job. Maybe I can tap into that. Maybe they have wisdom, knowledge, something called human capital knowledge.
Which is invaluable.
Exactly. That if you lose that now, once you lose that from one organization, now you've lost so much wisdom that can't be found in the manual. So when you talk about understanding leadership and management and how it impacts diversity, equity, inclusion, that's where I started. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I always tell people this and companies this: nobody's going to force you to do what you don't want to do. And if it's forced, it's not going to come out as authentic. And you don't want it to come out as inauthentic, because once it comes out as inauthentic, any training, any consulting, or any type of coaching that you bring in that is inauthentic, what ends up happening is it becomes a check the box. And people are not stupid. Once again, I got to get raw. People are not stupid. People can tell when you're just checking the box, or you're just saying, okay, we're just going to do this just to get, just get done. And I don't take on clients like that. I think I say no, thank you. I mean,
Yeah, it's got to come from a real place. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And people can, and people not gonna see you. You know,
Plus, you don't get the results, right?
yes,
Plus, when you really think about it, folks will bring Pierre in as
right?
the expert, and whether they're doing it on purpose or not, through their actions, sabotage his work and ultimately sabotage the results that they were looking for just by not being genuine from the beginning. So
Bruh.
they'll say, "Oh, we brung in Pierre Campbell and his team, and this is what we were expecting. They're known all around the world. This is what they're about, and they couldn't get it done. We can't change it. It's just what it is. It's like racism. It ain't going nowhere, right? So they bring a lot of times, and I think sometimes we, as coaches and as leaders and as consultants, some of us in the pursuit of making change and getting dollars will fall into the trap that some organizations put out there. When you ask certain questions to see how you can really impact their organization, and you hear the nonsense, and then you asking the question, do I waste my time going into this, or at least do I give them the coaching moment now and let them figure it out, and then they can come back when they're ready for my company to come in and be a part of the solution.
Bro,
right.
right. You bring back a memory that you just jogged my memory. I was working with an organization who brought in a brilliant young woman. Her name is Kakanza Nuri Robbins. She wrote the book Fish Out of Water. Right. I still use this book to this day. And it was a diversity initiative. Brought her in, bought everybody her books, purchased access to her workshops on video. We had to study them, and then this organization brought her in at
Nice.
the end of the curriculum being finished, her online curriculum, and got all the staff together. And leadership didn't even come downstairs to meet her. Like it was, so it's like, okay, so what is the message that we're sending, right? And the department that put this initiative on and spent time and resources and pushed it on everybody and made everybody feel like, to Pierre, to your point, help to encourage empowerment in the staff to do the workshop and the curriculum and then come meet this woman, and then we threw it all out the window because leadership didn't attend, and that department that put it on was disbanded, right in line with what we're seeing today. People started to leave, domino effect, hence what we're seeing happen in great droves, the great resignation, where it's a movement. People are literally not putting up with things at any extended amount of time more than they feel like they should. And they're leaving their job. So Pierre, do you see the connection between the previous two questions, right? The difference between leadership and management and how that may get lost and impact diversity, equity, and inclusion. Do you see a connection with this movement of people deciding to resign from their positions and either take their skill set directly to to the market, or just go find greener pastures? Do you see a connection here?
Yes, I see a connection, and I believe the connection is people understanding value, understanding their own personal value, understanding the value of the organization that they're working for. And then, you know, this is something that's not talked about a lot, but most people go, and let me just define it, because I always talk about job and work. We use the word job and work as though they mean the same thing. Let me step
Right.
back so y'all can see what I'm talking about. So, and this is what I always say, a job is a place where you go to do your work. That's how I define job.
Right.
Okay. All right. So then you're like, okay, you define job for me, Pierre. How do you define work? Well, your work is your gifting. Remember what I said leadership is?
Yep.
Leadership is leading in your area of gifting. So what is your area of gifting? That way you can come to the world, come to the job, and bring your leadership. A technician, an engineer, an administrative assistant,
That's right.
a marketing specialist, whoever it is, a program manager or whatever. It doesn't matter what you do on the job. It's about your area of gifting that you bring in. Now, when you talk about the reason why I said value is the issue is because most people come into the workforce and they don't necessarily understand their value. They don't understand how to articulate their value because everything that's taught to you in the educational system is about the job description and how much money you made and all of this other thing that's external. So what I always like to do is free people. And the way I define value is 3 things. And there's more, but these 3 things I talk about value and it hits home because these 3 things are very important. Y'all ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Yes.
Your value, and I hope your audience embraces this and puts this into their subconscious mind. Your value is in your talents, your gifts, and your strengths. The value that you bring to the organization is in your talents, your gifts, and your strengths. The value that you bring to your family is in your talents, your gifts, and your strengths. Now, are any of these three things outside of you? No,
Nope.
they're not. But what happens is we go through these systems, the educational system, the job system, and we place more value on the education, the degree, the job title, the salary. We place more value on that. And unfortunately, social media is making it even worse for people because now you're looking for more validation, more likes, more followers. That's not. You need to know who you are and why you're here and why you were born. Because everybody goes to a job. Let's go back to the analogy. Everybody goes to a job and they want to go and do their work. But we keep using the words as though they mean the same thing.
And they don't.
But so they go there and they have a manager that doesn't understand their work because they don't know how to articulate their work. So now you go on this job and you only do the job description. But the job description was created to attract you. Nobody knows who you are.
Nobody knows who you are.
So if you step foot in the job and you don't show up and you don't show your work, then guess what? Bam. No one understands your value.
At all.
And one of the most important things that we're looking for other than money when we take a job, and this is no one's really talking about this, but what we're looking for is significance. But you're never going to get significance from the job, everybody. You see what I'm saying? Rob, Jamal, listen to me, bro. You get significance from your work.
Yeah.
You see, I'm getting significance from doing this because this is my work.
Right.
I'm speaking, I can tell what's happening.
Yeah.
This is my work. This is what I was born to do.
Right.
To help people to understand this. It's not my job. I can make money anywhere. No one owns me.
What you say, Rob? You don't own me, sucker.
You don't own me, sucker.
But it's very important to understand that and be okay with sitting under authority in a job.
That's right.
Correct.
So embrace that point too.
Yeah.
Because you need to work.
Yes.
For the income.
That's right.
You also need to understand, okay, when I sit under this authority, there are certain things that I need to follow or whatever it is, but that doesn't mean that you need to be walked all over or felt like crap or all this other bull crap. Come on, get out of my face. Come on. First of all, I guess this is where the football comes in.
I knew it was going to happen.
Who can lift 400 pounds? No, I'm just kidding. Let me stop. That's a joke, y'all. That's a joke.
It ain't a joke for me. It ain't a joke for me.
I'm just kidding. But y'all understand my point. I shared a whole lot, but y'all understand my point.
Beautiful.
But you know what though?
Go ahead, Rob.
Well, the part about and I hope people take this one, right? Because Pierre hit something and I just want to unpack it. The job description was put there to attract you. It is not you, right? It is not you. And the people who brought you in, they brought you in based upon how they think you fit with the job description. It is still not you, but the way the marketplace has been set up and what we have accepted as those who work for others, we've accepted the idea of being the job description when, like Pierre says, the work that we do is a part of who we are and is who we are. And as we connect ourselves to the work, meaning our gifting, we unlock that leadership component that allows us to go to the next level, right? That allows us to go to the next level to do next level things, and also allows us to be able to express ourselves and be ourselves and be able to witness corporate trauma and knowing how to level up past it.
That's right. That's right. Drop that mic, bro. Drop that mic, bro.
Wow.
And
But listen, but that's Pierre though. That's
and check
Pierre
this
though.
out, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I don't want it to get lost. A part of the corporate trauma training that we all are involved in, one of the pieces is called the hollow effect, which in the definition of it is a concept that describes the loss of time, energy, creativity, direction, aim and purpose based on an individual or a group's attempt to define themselves through external entities before or without looking internally through critical self-analysis. And I like to tell people, Pierre and Rob, to your point, is that if you are going to work to find out what it is that you're going to do, you setting yourself up for corporate trauma because you already hollowed yourself out. You know what you want to do before you even look at the job description. You know what you want to do. But I'm coaching people every day that it's difficult for them to even remember, Pierre.
Yes.
What is it that I want to do? Because we have settled to go after what's behind that job description, which is those paychecks. I wanted to add that there. But go ahead, Pierre. I know you had something to say. Or Rob, one of you.
I think that's key. And what I hope your audience gets is not focusing on the job or the manager that you're directly reporting to and placing blame and pointing the finger. Remember that old thing?
You got.
I don't even know how to get there. You go. You got all these fingers pointing back at you, right?
Right.
Exactly. But focusing on yourself. One of the greatest leaders of personal development, Jim Rohn, says, work harder on yourself than you do on your job.
That's right.
And if you do that, you become more valuable. You become more valuable to the job. You become more valuable to the marketplace. And I always share with that is don't hide your greatness when you go on to a job. Even though it's not, these things are not along with your job description. I coach a lot of executives and engineers. And you might have an area of gifting that's not aligned with the job description, but don't devalue that when you come to the job. Share it, whether it's valued or not. That's on them.
Right.
But when you share it and you start to exercise it and you work that muscle while you're working on that job, you're providing value, whether they want to believe it or not. Whether they want to accept it or not, that's not your responsibility. As Rob was mentioning, and future book coming out, everybody, my response is my responsibility. And that's what Rob was alluding to earlier. My response is my responsibility. What is that? That's simple intelligence. That's the first principle that everyone should be taught in this world. And once you do that, that's personal leadership. My response is my responsibility. Understanding that you got a job, you do your job, and if it's valued what you do, then fine. But you have a choice whether you want to leave the job or not. So going back to the whole idea of great resignation, the reason why the great resignation is there, nothing has changed. It's the same thing. What it is lack of leadership and lack of understanding of your own personal value. So you're like, you know what? And then you realize, and then you're like, you know what? I'm out. So then more people are leaving in droves because the marketplace is showing that you can do things more than what you thought you could do. You can take your transferable skills, your talents, your gifts, your strengths, what I define as value, all wrapped up in you. You can take those things and go wherever you want to go. The challenge is when you go, yes, you have to be under a certain level of authority, but just remember, my response is my responsibility. It's okay. It's okay.
Yep.
Do what you have to do and keep it, keep adding value. That's so I just want to make sure I shared that that point there.
Excellent. Well, Pierre, we know you got to go, and customary, you hit it. We're not staying stuck on corporate trauma. We are talking about the things that you need. We're going to dive into it and what makes corporate trauma what it is. But we're going to bring things and questions and people along as subject matters to help you level up. So as customary on the Level Up Past Corporate Trauma podcast, we want to give you the last word before we let you go. Is there anything that you wanted to say, anything that you wanted to talk about that you have coming up next that you want our audience to be aware of before you go that you may not have said?
Well, first of all, brothers, thank you. Thank you for bringing me on. I love being a part of your team. I love having y'all as a part of my team. This is important because as we grow, we go. As we go, we grow. As we get optimistic, we grow. Right. And my response is my responsibility will be coming out 2022. Everybody loves Simple Intelligence. They're buying it still till this day.
Yep.
And I love it because it's a small book on just things like common sense things. We all use the phrase common sense, but we all know common sense is not common. So hence my response is my responsibility. It kind of gives us a sense of, okay, wait a minute, I'm in control of myself. Yeah, you're in control of yourself. Just take a breath, step away from the situation and then take your action or respond. Don't just react. And then, I just want to let everybody know, listen, everything that you're going through right now is setting you up for greatness. It's setting you up for your next level. When we talk about level up, when Rob talks about level up, when we talk about corporate trauma, everything that you're going through in your trauma, the key here is self-awareness. Increase your self-awareness as you're going through what you're going through and take it easy on yourself. I say it because here's the thing. Sometimes we take ourselves too seriously. Have a little fun and be easy on yourself. There's enough pressures out there that are coming against you, that may not want you to succeed or whatever the case is, but be optimistic as you can. Some people say, prepare for the worst. I'm the opposite. I say prepare for the best.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I'll just leave it right there. I love you, brothers. Thank you so much for having me. I got to run.
Yeah. Hey, Pierre, thank you for giving us your time. And you have an open invitation to come back whenever you want to share anything you got going on. And yep, and there's affirmations to you from
there. It is. Thank you, Tanisha.
Yeah, one of
especially when the book comes out.
Our frequent and religious listeners, Tanisha Brisbane, Simple Intelligence, great book, really good affirmations included. Thank you, sir.
All right, brother.
Thank you so much, brother.
All right.
All right. Enjoy your night.
Well,
all right.
That was a lot of information in a short amount of time.
I agree.
Man, that was wonderful.
I completely agree. But it's necessary. And I was over here jotting down notes and everything. And even though we've had these conversations and we've connected a number of different times, it's always good for it to be reaffirmed and for you to actually hear these things from an expert like Pierre. Right. So kudos to him. Excited to hear about the book. I hope hopefully we'll be able to get him to come back on and share some pieces from the book when it's launched and when it's published. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. And I really love what he said, man. The undercurrent underneath people leaving their jobs is because they are finally, the marketplace is allowing, or the situation, the circumstances is allowing people to truly realize their value, their talents, their strengths, and their gifts, right? What a fantastic way for him to wrap that up and put that. So remember, people, listen, once you realize your value, it's going to be hard for you to deny yourself what you deserve And yes, when we go to work and if we work for somebody, there's a certain amount of respect for authority and humility that we have to have, because respecting authority and being under a chain of command or a hierarchy within a business, a firm, or organization really just means you have respect for the author of the field of endeavor that you are involving yourself in. It's not the person,
Mhm.
it's what it is that you're trying to do, right? And sometimes people make it difficult, like Pierre said, with their lack of human relational skills. And maybe they don't know the difference between leadership and management. Maybe you don't. Um, you
Mhm.
know, so but it's okay you don't have to be the boss. You don't have to be the top
Mhm.
of the food chain. All you need to be is connected to your value, um, and connecting your value
Mhm.
to doing something that is real.
Mhm.
And then people's going, because the cream always rise to the top, Rob. I'm sorry.
Well, I I haven't been on a farm to see the cream, but that's what I've heard my whole entire life. So I'm going to believe it until I see something different. But I will touch on this one piece as my last word. I have a feeling that folks many of us, many folks in the marketplace in different industries knew their value, but didn't have enough time to really sit down and figure out what they were willing to do to
Right.
maximize that value, to maximize it, to take advantage of it, and really to go swimming in a pool that was built for them.
Yes.
Right? It's a difference when you jump into anybody else's pool, but I think a lot of people are like, "Hey, I want a pool that's made for me. It doesn't have to be my pool, but it fits with my style of swimming." You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I'll leave it there. But I feel like a lot of people have had the time to actually figure out how they want to level up, and they're doing so.
Yes, sir. Well, speaking of level up, Rob, I would be remiss, and you know how much I love history and talking about history, but I want to
Mhm.
recognize today as a major day in history from our community, October 7th. October the 7th, 1897 is the birth anniversary of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and how his birth and his life and his legacy and his leadership relates to corporate trauma. Because at a time in the 30s and 40s where he was building the Nation of Islam and giving empowerment and helping people in the Black community understand their value and their value, not just at work, just at like in life in particular, because some of the things that were prominently um, levied on us coming out of what we know as um, slavery, right? No,
Mhm.
in enslavement. But I wanted to recognize one in particular thing when he started to help educate Black people in particular of their value. What he inspired, ironically, is four things that are hallmarks in every hood USA, right? That people you only can go to the hood to get it, right? The neighborhood
Mhm.
or the Black and
Mhm.
brown community, right? So number one, he helped us to see that our diet coming up out of enslavement was not the healthiest. So he gave us a healthy dessert alternative. Everybody knows it, the bean pie, right? Huge staple, like a multi-billion-dollar business since the 30s and the 40s, right?
Mhm.
One of the oldest or longest standing um, pockets of information in Black periodicals used to be known
Mhm.
as the Muhammad Speaks. Now is the Final Call newspaper.
Mhm.
That's a huge staple in our community, right?
Mhm.
And then what a lot of people don't know, that he popularized um, Black and brown communities eating what is called whiting, or it's a specific type of fish, because he prescribed that fish over a certain size, or fish that are scavengers are not healthy for you.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
he negotiated a multi-million-dollar deal where he was going to Peru and importing in hundreds and thousands of pounds of whiting fish. And so now you saw members of the Nation of Islam going door to door selling what is called whiting H&G, whiting head and gutted. So now when you go to a fish restaurant, or you in a seafood restaurant, guess what's always on the menu? Whiting,
Mhm.
right? That's a delicacy in the hood. And then also what he is probably more properly known is highlighting and exposing the truth of Black and brown people in theology. Because
Mhm.
before he began to teach, man, Black people didn't know that we was in the Bible, other than maybe in the kitchen at the Last Supper, right? So so that I wanted to bring and highlight his name today, because today our 13th episode happens to fall
Mhm.
on his 124th birth anniversary,
Wow.
and is a he and his students, more
Mhm.
popular known as Muhammad Ali is a student, Malcolm X is a student, Minister
Mhm.
Farrakhan is a student, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is a student. Um, he's known through his students more than he's known through the
Mhm.
inspiration that he gave just a broader section of people, Black, white, brown, whatever you call it, because he saw the value in the people he was trying to teach and gave them real, tangible ways to level up.
To
So big,
level
big
up.
shout out to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's why I got this shirt on today. So
Hey, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I hope for those who are listening, um, regardless of what religious background you follow, understanding the impact that people have had on your life,
right,
and really being thankful for that.
that's right.
Right, and that's the key. So as we go through this whole entire process and acknowledging the birthday, it's really something that we got to just take a step back and say, be like, let's be thankful for it. Because who knows, if we think things are bad now, if we didn't have many of the leaders who you mentioned be go to sit at the feet, right, and
Right.
really learn in especially in their earlier years and get that foundation, you know many of our communities, we would be like in a difficult situation. I just know ultimately, the impact, regardless if you're Muslim or Christian, is felt. So, yep.
Yeah,
Happy
and
birthday.
there's a bunch of people, Rob, in a bunch of different ways. This happens, to be uh, you know, considered maybe a religious leader or whatnot, but there's just
Mhm.
people, man, that impact other people who need to be empowered in some incredible ways and don't get credit for it,
Yeah.
right? Because their name isn't behind a company on the Forbes
Hmm.
list, or you know what I'm saying? Like earlier, I think it was last week or earlier this week, when Facebook, Twitter, and WhatsApp shut down, right?
Hmm.
They said, the
Instagram, Instagram,
Instagram,
or
yeah,
WhatsApp.
Facebook,
Yeah.
Instagram, and WhatsApp shut down, right? Um, they were all over Mark Zuckerberg. He lost, his stock tanked, and he
Mhm.
lost
7
5%.
billion. We lost
Yeah,
7
$7 billion, right? See, and then they put him on the list. Now he's only worth $121 billion, and he went from number 2 to number 7. Wait a minute, man. He didn't feel that. You know what I'm saying?
He didn't feel it at all.
But you
He
know
didn't
what?
feel it.
The um the people that he exploits, that use his platform, right?
Mhm.
And which happens to be the reason why things happen the way that they happen, are freed by the platform that he provided for them, right? So there's but there have been people freeing people's minds from being uh under, like, confinement,
Mhm.
right? There's people all over history that's helped us level up. but today just happens to be the birth anniversary of one of the most important in my particular life, and I know that there's a lot of other people out there that feel the same. Yeah, I mean, it just wouldn't be. It's just a whole lot of stuff. I don't know where we would be without his contribution, right? His continued contribution, and man, we're gonna have some people on this. We've had some people on this podcast that future generation is gonna be saying the same thing about. Man, I don't know where I would be without Rob's Level Up program. You know what I'm saying? I don't know where I would be without, you know what I'm saying, Brother Jamal, you know, really going in depth, saying the things that people were thinking but uncomfortable to say and giving a name to it, corporate trauma. And so this is what this platform is about. So we hope that you enjoyed tonight's episode with my man, Pierre Campbell, leadership coach, author, entrepreneur, and DEI consultant, and hope that you were able to make the connections between the conflating definitions of leadership and management and how it impacts people's bottom line through DEI. And Rob, as always, you the man. Appreciate you.
Hey, I'm just happy to be connected to you, bro.
All right.
You know.
All right, we'll level up past corporate trauma community. Remember, corporate trauma is a sneaky passive trauma that will creep up on you. And when it does,
it's time to level up.
All right, till we see you again next week. Same time, same channel. We'll see you later.
All right, bro. Later.
Later.